Okay, so this is a reset of my earlier post. Actually, specifically, I didn't do anything a while ago. As soon as I finished the video, I said, okay, I'll do some stuff, then I'll sleep. And that's sort of a pattern of Hikikomori is that the stereotype is easier to predict that because we're always in a room. Our training regimen is always rest and more rest. So there's an element there that's closer to what people are talking about when we're out of shape. Even if we go out, we're like, okay, uh, the reason I could probably be thin is because I just keep resting. The truth is, resting isn't a habit for Hikikomori. It's more like waking up and then dropping down, waking up, dropping down. What's the difference? Well, the difference is if we have to do something, any action, we have almost hibernated rather than simply slept. So a lot of the actions that we normally do require some sort of battle between learning, skill acquisition, and then energy management. And you can't, as at least this is what I learned, you can't teach energy management to people. Some of the just best-selling productivity books, if you look at it from a pattern of literature, you will realize that some of the best advices are actually some of the more lesser known advices. Some of the better advices are actually the ones just taking the advices and like constricting it into a simple doable concept. So what do I mean by this? Let's say I woke up right now. Best-selling productivity guide would probably do some type of okay, do X habit or start immediately or start now. Whereas the a sort of lesser known but just as good productivity book would be more like okay, you know what? Instead of let's looking at it from a forward mindset, let's do it backwards. Let's say, what are your feelings right now? What are your things that you have to do right now? It's an important difference because let's say I'm here in my room. There's a random bunch of food stuff, drink stuff, or even things, and I'm like exercising with the chance of fiber, drinking fiber, eating fiber, whatever. Then if I could mix oatmeal or I could mix any drink that may have fiber or and then I exercise after resting for the fiber, then maybe that's all good because I'll over time I'll become lean and something. But it doesn't help me in a surprise moment. It doesn't help the the point where I need to do an action. It only helps me to the point where I can feel good about myself. And well, everybody can feel good about this. Everybody can say, let's do some push ups. But is that really a training regimen? And I don't think it is. So there's always 3 points that will always consume a person inside the room. One is their rest becoming more rest, and then how is their rest transitioning into needing action. So again, more rest is not the next action. It's not the second phase of what we do. We are already doing a lot of those. What we need is at some point in our more rest, we have to have more action so that it will compensate for what our body needs. And then, of course, energy management. At some point of our energy management, uh, we can't just check like, okay, I'm talented, I have the genes, I'm gonna fix this whole shindig, and then you're gonna have a general training regimen for skill acquaintance, skill acquisition, because not all people are the same. Uh, some people are gonna hit a point where their skill acquisition is just mess up. Because you're in a room, let's face it, you're in a room, chances are you're gonna try something called coding, something called learning, something, some manner of that, and it just doesn't work. I tried sharing a productivity guide, my productivity guide, with a person outside, and they just flat out didn't understand it. They didn't understand why something disorganized can be organized. Because as far as they're concerned, they're writing properly in a notebook. They're they're not using edges of paper for like Cornell method. They're not relying a lot of productivity apps, and they're saying, okay, you know what, my method is okay for me, even though my method is not getting anywhere. Well, Hikikomori doesn't have that luxury, and that was partly why I was inspired to do a productivity guide back then. Before every every part of uh, every part of the psych ward issues factor in, and even the psych ward issues, like you're basically a Hikikomori there without equipment, you know. Uh, and some of those people, I'm not saying I'm the one that's uh, uh, that's superior, but most people can be like a hikikomori, but they can be people who find themselves having a job or having a college degree, but their social skills not really wrong or not really shy, but very introverted. And some people there can't really eloquate very well. And I'm not saying that's a bad thing on their side. I'm just saying some of those places they try to make you say stuff. They try to make you open stuff. You're in front of a psychiatrist. You're in front of a psychologist. You're in front of a psychologist while you're in front of your parents, and you're what you have to say the right things while also saying the true things. Because it's one thing if you're just saying what many people uh, advise is fake it until you make it. You find out there's not a lot of people that understand what they really do. Not a lot of people are willing to just go and be true to themselves, and that's also partly true for exercise. Training is very important that you understand why you're doing something, but just understanding why you're doing something doesn't change why you're inside the room. So, like I said, why did I bring up the fiber thing a while ago? It's important because what your intake is gonna define what's your rest time, and what your rest time is gonna define your activity time. So if it, if you want to compensate for Hikikomori, you have your rest time has to be your reading time, your learning time, your activity time, your skill acquisition time, your job time. If you have a job, which I still don't believe people can just get jobs in say anymore. It's something I agree more with the comments told that person when I read it was insisting that it was more of a Japanese thing. If you are doing stuff like that, uh, then what's your active time? What's your after rest time? That's a very important key ac- after rest time because chances are it's easier to just be on the bed. Just it's much easier. Even if you're an active guy, it's just you're in a room. Like if you're gonna train in such a way that you're gonna uh, expend uh, so much energy training, and then later on your action is not converting you to anything, then you're demotivating yourself. You're you're not really doing the right activity for your uh, most important objective, which is, let's face it, to react when there's surprise. Because that's it. You're you're in a room. You're not. You control most of this. Your problem is when surprise happen. Everything is messed up. Schedules are messed up. 'Cause you learn your life, all your life, to just work on nothing that's gonna bother you again. You're in control from people that can hurt you, or from people that have hurt you, or from people that pretend that they know what's best for you, and they don't even. Let's face it, they're they're losers in life. They're not just losers; they're evil people. And like I said, I've proven it from my side of the view of those people who sent me to the psych ward 5 different times. You look at there's a Hikikomori RT or something where a bunch of those people were have a trauma. You look at some of those not recent Hikikomori documentaries, you'll see if they're not trauma, they have a sort of issue. So you have to take what's the common uh, idea of an agile thinking or a productivity thinking, which is batch plus sprint. That's for every activity, and convert it into exercise or training. And that's just theory. Uh, Now let's go with the actual exercise. Chances are, depending on the time you have, I'd go for box jumps. Your goal will be number one is to do box jumps. Uh, I'm not saying you do it immediately. That's why it's a goal. I think for most people, box jumps are doable, but it, as soon as you hit peak fatigue, you're jumping on your bed is gonna, it's gonna be tough because the one thing if you're jumping on the bed, then you're jumping down. It's another thing once fatigue set in, you have to try to like jumping on your bed, then sort of use one leg to get back down. So box jumps are number one. Why? Because the legs is the first thing that goes away. Uh, so and the number two thing is that it's a very it's one of those things. Box jumps are one of those things that they're both a warm up and then they're an actual exercise. Then you have to have some kind of finger exercise. I know a lot of people can do the or some suggested finger grips, but I think I'd rather use my bed. Just basic lifting the bed with a finger. I don't. The finger is not important to strengthen as much as what is needed is like at that small moment where you're lifting stuff. Uh, it's how would I say? It's one of those things that are good because uh, it's not the exercise. It's a point of focus. It's like if you do eye exercises, uh, and we're not talking about just not random eye exercises. We're talking about distance eye exercises, distance control, uh, and rubbing your hands and closing your eyes. You feel relaxed, right? Well, I feel absolutely relaxed yesterday trying this egg white thing, where you just boil two eggs, remove the egg whites, mix it until it's frothy. Then the annoying part of this is it's messy. It doesn't stick with your face, but you put those egg whites into your face in a sort of frothy stage, and it's like absolutely wonderful. And it's the same thing with the finger lifting of the band. It's you just lift it. You don't make it a dynamic exercise. It's a static exercise. So while you're doing that, you're partially squatted, and you're uh, training your fingers. It's not gonna strengthen your finger, but what at least it does is it sort of calibrates your focus. Just makes you. And then finally, how do you do uh, push-ups? You don't do push-ups. And I'm talking for someone who couldn't do it once. Don't do push-ups like you're gonna do push-ups anytime. Do push-ups like that's your that's your ruler. Are you that motivated to exercise at that time? Do it with push-ups. So you have finger, the legs, and the push-ups. And the box jumps is always gonna be prepared through squats. If you don't like squats, I recommend jump squats. Jump squats, then lunges, jump squats, two lunges, jump squats, three lunges. It's gonna be tedious, but at least it's gonna train your mind to count, right? And that's sort of extremely important. I was thinking like maybe I should demonstrate it, and I fucking realized, okay, shit, this is not in my camera's capacity. Uh, but we did it. It's a version of Tabata, but it's just two version, two actions. You have three. You have uh, finger lift, bend, jump squats, and your goal is always box jumps. Uh, it. I don't know if you can say three exercises is good compared to a lot of what we've been taught: crunches, pull-ups, warm-ups. Uh, that I think it's a start. I think the more important part is like you have to do those three exercises so that you can do the box jump. And you have to do the box jump uh, after you have eat, eaten enough carbohydrates so that you can use those energy. And then once you finish with the carbohydrates, if you can afford those proteins, then do proteins. You have a lot of options. It's it's all those options, dumbbells, barbells. Uh, they're they're so specific to the need of a person that there's I don't trust that it should be applied for Hikikomoris. Uh, you have to do the box jump. That's just it. You have to do it every day, and your legs will be good, and your mind will be active. And that's three sequences. That's gonna prepare you for surprise, for running, for as close as you can to running again. Because if there's no problem, you don't need to run. For uh, basically resting your eyes. Again, you want to exercise when you're resting, so rest your eyes. Uh, wait, sorry. Food intake, drink intake, rest your whatever before you do exercise. Do something, then do the exercise. and it's as good as a beginner exercise as possible because it's always one. You're already active. If you ever need a fallback, it's always burpees. Uh, I would say I would have suggested Murphs, but then I said, okay, fuck. Not all people can even do pull-ups. I can do pull-ups, and even if I can configure my place to do pull-ups, like, you know what? That's still something that I haven't figured out. You know, definitely there are higher versions of this, but lower versions have to be, I think, goal centric rather than activity centric. So you always have to prepare for something, a goal, and you always have to do exercise based on those goals. And then you have to do an exercise based on their learning something. So uh, it's a transition period. You just develop those habits. If you don't develop those hobbies, then it's problematic because then let's say you have an actual regimen, an actual training period. Uh, you're fuck, you're fuck up because it's you try and you establish a habit, then someone will destroy it. Of course, there's the opposite mindset. Like you can't have any excuses. You have to do exercise. You have to do all this stuff. You have to do learning. You have to read books. You have to. That's good too. But what happens when, by trying to be so good at it, you suck? You suck at. You're only good enough until you can't do it. You can't. It can't save you. It doesn't. You train so muscular, then six guys are trying to get to you, and you're not even peak, but peak anything. You're like, okay, every day I'm gonna do a bunch of this stuff. I'm gonna feel well about this stuff. Or every day I'm gonna go to the gym, and okay, nothing happens. Now I'm no longer Hikikomori. Cool. But what if you're something happens? So you have to like just keep on having goals, two activities leading to those goals, and the fallback. Fallback will be basically something so hard, but on that day you can do it. So that's my advices for now. Uh, I hope somebody tries this and they can give me feedback because I'm gonna try it too. Well, on lockdown. Of course, part of me wants to just go all in, but not yet. Good day.